Welcome to Justice Broadcasting as our travels brought us to downtown Pikeville and inside of Friends Drift Inn. My name is Gary Justice. This is episode number 12 of the Justice Podcast Series here with Charlie Pinson Day, longtime broadcast partner. We broadcast a lot of games. And Charlie, you do a lot of things throughout this community. And we talked a long time before we started recording just broadcasting, but also I'd love to just talk about some jams and jellies today and Santa Claus too, Charlie.
Yep. I enjoy people, and that's the main thing. I'm able to get out and be around people, and I enjoy people, and I hope people enjoy what I do.
Well, I know from just again the games I've worked with you, the people who come up to you, you're like a celebrity. People because they recognize. So some folks they know your voice so much, and they know you, and you talked about before we started recording that it means so much to you. And in fact, because in broadcasting, as far as financially, there's not a lot of money to be made, but you do it more for a community service type thing, Charlie.
I mean, you do. I mean, there's not, they can't afford to pay very much at this market level what they make. But the nice thing is, and when when somebody comes up and says, I really appreciate what you do because my grandma can't come out and see her grandsons play or her granddaughters play ball. And when you can get something back to somebody that's not able to get out, I mean, it should make you feel good.
One more thing on the connection. I was working a U-Pike football game with you, and I remember was up in the booth, and it was like halftime, and then the next thing we know, there's a knock at the door, and it was a family from California who'd come in for senior day, and they'd watched the games for 4 years, and they wanted to meet Charlie Pinson because, we've heard your voice for 4 years. We wanted to meet you. And they talked about how much it was. Hey, my son's playing in Kentucky. We live in California, just the impact there.
With the college game, that's true. And, I've made a lot of friends with the college game. I've made a lot of friends of the families as much as I have the players over the years. And that's a big deal for me to be able to talk to those people. And I remember very well when that couple came in. It was a lot of fun.
So let's rewind. So you've been a voice on for PRG for a long time. So when did broadcasting start for you, Charlie?
If I remember right, I think it was about 1989 at the Pike County Bowl.
Okay.
I was doing that game down there, or maybe no. Yeah, I would have been back in Pikeville by then. I was sitting in my office upstairs in the insurance business, and Ken Hall comes in and we started talking. I said, if you ever need any help one day, I wouldn't mind trying that, and I've been doing it ever since.
Well, of course, also rewinding even back before then, you have a lot of experience as a coach, so you know the game, athletics. So does that help you in the broadcasting thing?
It does. When I first came back home, Eddie Bevins from Johns Creek called me up and said, I need your help, and help him with the grade school team over there for a few years, and I did that, and then Jim Lamb and the guys, I went up helped them at the high school level until Pike Central came about, and Pike Central came about what, mid-90s?
94.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and it was probably 98 instead of 89 after I said that because I was at Pike Central. I coached girls softball at Pike Central as well as an assistant, and and that, to actually be honest, coaching the girls is probably one of the best things that ever happened to me because it gave me a whole different perspective. When you coach boys and girls, it's different, and that helps me a lot to understand what these coaches and these players are going through.
So you had the 8 and 9. It was just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm old,
So going back, so that's 28 years of broadcasting ball games, Charlie, and again, you do a lot of. You've done. I've watched many a football game. I watched many a basketball game you covered. You cover a lot of baseball games. Do you have a favorite sport that you've covered in the past?
Well, I played football, so football in my heart is one of my favorite. But I've always liked basketball, but I've really learned a lot about basketball over the years, and been blessed to work with a lot of good coaches and players and stuff. We've had a lot of people come in and out of our little broadcast booth there with PRG, and it's made a big difference for us to be able to learn from each one of them.
So Charlie, also, not only you spent a lot of time on air calling the ball game, but I went back doing some research for this podcast. You used to host like a call-in show type thing, like a coach's show. Yeah. Talk a bit about that with PRG.
We had what Pikeville College coaches show back at the time, and that we had it set up down at PRG. We had a call in every Thursday night at we had 3 or 4 different shows on that. PRG had a racing show, we had a wrestling show, we had our coaches show, and that I enjoyed doing that. Had a lot of help. We were able to do a lot of or the coaches were able to do a lot of teaching. They come out. We had them set up. They had a board. They could draw plays out and show people what was going on. A lot like the coaches shows you see, like you see the Mark Pope show now.
Right. And where you can kind of, you can do the instruction side of things, but then also the ability to call in and ask questions too.
Yeah, and we had quite a few calls. We really enjoyed doing that. I've been able to do that with 4 or 5 of the coaches up until recently. I did it up until at the end of Al Holland's tenure there. They changed the way they were doing things because PRG did it a lot. I've done it in the office here a while when Dudley was here.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay, yeah.
I've been able to travel with the football team. I've done a lot of football travel. I was able the first 99 games ever played at UPike, I was there.
That's amazing.
I missed one game due to a death in the family, and then a few years after that, they changed the rules on allowing more than one media outlet to travel. But worked out good for me. I was getting too old to do that anyway.
and the travel is not like you just travel 30 minutes down the road.
Oh no,
You're doing a lot of overnight travel. Cause you travel down the day before, and on Friday night, and then setting up everything on Saturday.
Rick Bentley and I, after the first couple of years, started traveling together. I mean, they've been times we've had to leave on Thursday. We played as far south as Mobile, Alabama.
And that's you talk about dedication there too, because not only are you leaving a couple games, but a couple days before the game, but also once you get there, it's not like you have a big crew. A lot of times you're setting the stuff up yourself, right?
Yeah, I usually a lot of times when my brother, if it was a weekend trip that we could go, my brother-in-law and I worked together, so Mark would stay here on the long games like that because one of us had to be here to keep the insurance business open, and I would go down and I would usually pick out a red shirt player early in the season and teach them how to run the camera, and they would film for me.
It boggles my mind how much time you've put in on the air to travel, because again, a Friday night, even to this point, 28 years later, you're still somewhere. And most Friday nights calling a ball game for football, and you'll turn on for basketball, it would be a local high school game or University of Pikeville. Charlie Pinson, he's on the air somewhere. If you look hard enough, you're going to find you.
I still enjoy it, and that's the thing. As long as you enjoy it, it's not really that much work, and you know that, because, you've got bitten by the same bug that I got, so.
My wife says it's I like to talk too much, so I can go put the headset on. We can talk as much as we want to, can't we, Charlie?
That's true. Yeah.
But Charlie, also, as far as on the broadcasting thing, and the kind of the community service part for broadcasting, put the games out. Charlie Pinson Insurance. Now, when did that start?
Oh goodness, that probably started in about 90. 89 or 90. I have to go back and look at the exact dates on that. So I was in the insurance business for over 30 years. Over 30 years.
30 years.
Yeah. And it worked out. Actually, when I first started broadcasting, they didn't pay me. They just gave me commercials.
Okay.
For a few years, and then the federal government decided that wasn't right. I would have to pay taxes on what the commercials were worth. So
my tie to community service, I started thinking about an insurance business, about protecting families and protecting individuals, protecting business. That's a true community service because, now everything is kind of moved to an online platform and that type of thing. You was always face to face where people will come to you, or I've seen you go out to the community people's businesses, and if they had a question or delivering something to them, kind of talk about that community service part of it through Charlie Pinson Insurance.
Yeah, when we were in the insurance business, we've retired now, but I mean, personal service meant a lot. I mean, that's the way to do it right, and that way you would help the insurance company and the client both. I didn't work for, really, I got paid by the insurance company, but I felt like I worked for the client as much as I wanted a good fit to try to get the two of them together. And I've made a lot of friends over the years through the insurance business that are still friends today, and it's been a lot. I enjoyed it for the most part. Got a little stressful there as you get older, and of course,
the hustle. I mean, it's just things have changed too, and just again, my tie though was the community service part of it. Then you was truly a community service there, helping people. When you did Charlie Pinson Insurance, was opened up. So let's kind of shift into jams and jellies, Charlie. So we're sitting inside the store in downtown Pikeville at Fringe Drift Inn. So let's talk a little bit about the behind the name, the story behind the name Fringe Drift Inn first.
Well, my wife Joyce, well, she's a friend. That was her maiden name, and she grew up in northern Kentucky. She grew up in a little town called Union, out there by Ryle High School, and her grandparents lived in Warsaw, Kentucky, which was right on the river.
Okay.
And they lived up on the hill above the road, kind of like we would say here.
Yeah.
And they had a restaurant back in the '60s, maybe up to the early '70s. That would sit right on the Ohio River, and it had a boat dock that just kind of stuck out into the river. And that's what they named their restaurant, was Fringe Drift Inn, because you could float your boat right up to the restaurant.
And within the family name being Friend.
Being
right?
Friend, yeah. So we took that name because, there's a lot of Pinson, everything Pinson in Pike County. My family's been here since 1795, but we kind of took that, but being something different, and it meant a lot to Joyce. It means a lot to me. I mean, her grandfather and I were real good friends, and especially he and I were real close. And he was the one that had the restaurant. We've got some of the old signage and stuff, a couple pieces here and there that came back to us after he passed away. And we really enjoy using that name. And we kind of took a friend of ours, we got a friend of ours that did the logo for us. Was a tattoo artist here in Pikeville.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, the tattoo shop used to be on the other end of this building when it was
Right, yeah.
Southern Steel Tattoos, yeah. And those guys over there became real good friends of mine. And of course, most people don't realize a lot of tattoo artists went to school for art.
All right, well,
And
that makes sense.
he had an art degree. And I looked at Harley and I said, can you make me a logo? He said, sure. And then Harley Fleming draws it up, and that's the Fringe Drift Inn logo where it came from. And that's a caricature of Joyce on the front of the jars.
Really?
Yeah.
Which makes sense now what you explained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can see it. Well, they can't see it on there, but you can see it over there. Oh, and that's what Harley came up with. And Joyce at one time had a TV show named Fringe Drift Inn too. Yeah. And it's got its own, got an original soundtrack to it. That
really?
Yep. John Barry Coleman, John Barry Coleman?
I do.
His son, I've lost my mind now all of a sudden. And I know it just...
Yeah, my mind's going to different places as far as Coleman.
Brandon Coleman. Brandon's probably a little younger than you.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon is one of the best guitar players you've ever seen.
Okay.
And he makes a living as a guitar player and teaches guitar and everything else. And he wrote this theme song for us.
Yeah. For the TV show.
For the TV show, yeah. So, that's one of the things too. A lot of talent here from Eastern Kentucky that people don't realize it's there. But now Brandon can make a guitar talk.
So now, Fringe Drift Inn, you was telling me before we started recording, 2018, something like that?
2000, well, the jam business, 2018. The name's been out there a little longer than that because we used that when we were doing our farming and stuff at the farmer's market. And Joyce had it on the TV shows and on the articles and things that she was writing. So it originally started out more as much for her personal side than it did for all of us together, but we've adopted it. But the Jam and Jelly started in about 2018, I think, on being close. We got a friend of ours who's, we were talking about him earlier, Matt from Bourbon Barrel Foods in Louisville. Well, Matt started that, and Joyce did a couple articles on him. We became friends and got to know him. And then he said, we just need to do something together. And we went on for 2 or 3 years. And then we went down to the state fair one day and had breakfast with him. And the time we got finished talking to him, we walked out of there making an agreement to make jams and jellies for him. And we're still doing that today. Matter of fact, I just made a delivery to him the other day.
Yeah, because I know we thought about trying to do this we're recording this on a Wednesday, and we thought about doing it on Tuesday. He said, no, I've got a big delivery. Monday I've got to be in the kitchen, and Tuesday I've got to deliver. So
right, Tuesday we made our delivery yesterday in the rain all the way down there and back.
So jams and jellies, Charlie, how did that come about?
Well, both Joyce and I both grew up, our families both made jams and jellies.
Okay.
I grew up, and Joyce and I, since we've been married, we've been doing it ourselves at home all along, and food, it had to be something food related for us because, that's kind of, we're both foodies, and her writing and everything gave us a lot of opportunities to get out and meet a lot of chefs and do a lot of traveling with that. And so we decided that would do something that her grandparents and my grandparents and her parents, all had done in the past, kind of carry on a tradition family-wise, but we do it a little bit different. We do jams and jellies. We do it all commercially. We're in a commercial kitchen. We've got all of our licenses. We got our federal paperwork, but we also do a little healthier.
Okay.
Instead of using more than half of what your product is of sugar, ours is going to be quite a bit less. I can't tell you an exact number on that. I can tell you that most of our jams have less than 10 grams of sugar per tablespoon.
Which is much lower than
what you're going to get. Yes,
yeah.
The commercial ones are, sugar. And if you'll look on the back of any jam or jelly, 90% of the time when you see the commercial ones, the first thing you're going to see is the ingredient label is sugar. And ingredients are all listed by the volume of ingredients, the highest volume ingredient being the first to list on there.
Makes sense.
And sugar on ours is at least second in almost everything. Now that may not be true like in the pepper jellies, but we're still a lot less sugar than most because, sugar will be one of the more important, more prominent ingredients, but we got so many other ingredients in it, like you got sugar, and you got vinegar, and you got all that, which actually reduces that sugar level down. And so we want you to taste the fruit more than you're going to taste the sugar.
Right.
We want it to be sweet, but we don't want it to be so sweet that it overpowers the flavor of the fruit.
So that kind of leads me into my next direction with you, Charlie, is like you have an assortment of flavors. So how do you come up with all the different flavors?
Well, we've got 20 products right now, excuse me. We sit down and look, and we look at trends for one, see what's trending out there, and then we look at like where we're at here too. Growing up, what you can get in Kentucky and Eastern Kentucky, you can get strawberries, you can get blackberries, you can get blueberries.
Okay.
And those were the three of the very first flavors we did. And we wanted to do them a little bit different. Like our strawberry is strawberry moonshine, and we use a local moonshine made by Poly Hollow Distilleries, who were actually the first legal distillery to sell in Pike County.
Oh, wow.
And they're over at over in Belfry, right across Belfry High School, up in Forest Hills there.
Yeah.
And it's his grandfather's, great grandfather's recipe too. Might not have been legal then, but it's legal. It's legal now. Yeah. And then blackberry bourbon. Blackberries and bourbons are one of those things that just kind of pair together. Blueberry is one of my favorite fruits, so I wanted to do a blueberry jam. Blueberry is one of the top, probably 5 sellers out there. And so we want to do something a little different with it. And being foodies, again, eating a lot of stuff. You eat a lot of Indian food. I'm sure you've had a lot of Indian food. Have you ever thought about putting cardamom in something sweet?
I never thought about it, no.
Well, we tried it. We put cardamom in our blueberry, and cardamom normally is a warming spice when you eat it, as you know, if you've been eating heat. But with the blueberry, it's almost like it's a cooling spice. It changes the cardamon's flavor as much as it changes the blueberry's flavor. Actually, the smell of cardamom is the best thing about it.
So how do you as far as quality checks, and I'm sure you guys have a lot of tastings, and how does that work?
When we do a new product, especially, we'll make we'll make a sample batch, maybe 10 or 12 jars, and then I'll get out and start beating. Everybody in Pikeville that I think it's a foodie or that likes something hot or sweet, they get to try it.
Okay.
Like I go see Wes over at the Expo, being a chef. And we got chefs all over the country, all over the state too. We're going into a trip in Lexington. We'll see a couple of our friends down there that are chefs. We'll send them a jar to them, let them try it, and get their critiques on it.
Okay.
And that's kind of the way those have all worked out. Go to the different restaurants here in town, like used to go to the bank all the time when Wes was over there, and all the people over there that are foodies that ate over there or eat over there now too. The arena, and now we use Wright's over here as well. Just everybody in town, we'll let them try it, and then we'll do that 2 or 3 times, and then we'll come back and maybe tweak it a little bit till we get what we want. Occasionally we'll hit one right off the bat. We just did our first barbecue sauce here in March, and it became a hit. The the first batch of it worked out really well.
Okay, so then you're you said 20 products.
Yep, we
now.
got 20 products. We got, I think there's 16 jams, no, 15 jams. There's 4 hot sauces and 1 barbecue sauce right now.
Okay, yeah.
We started hot sauces about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and our hot sauces are a little bit different. Our hot sauces are peppers, apple cider vinegar, and that's it. But we don't just use one pepper.
Okay.
We use a mixture of peppers. We use some of them, we use got a chipotle pepper in, which gives you smokiness.
Okay.
That's a smoked jalapeno. We use that, and then we'll add a different, like in our base, we use that one, and we use what's called the red cherry bomb pepper. You know, they're a little bitty red pepper.
I know what you're talking about,
They're right about the heat of a jalapeno, but they've got a little sweetness of their own. There's no sugar in them, but they've got that sweet taste. And then we'll add we got an African pepper, we got an African bird's eye pepper, we put in one of them that's got a fruitiness to it.
Okay.
And we'll mix those up, and then we got one that's got a habanero in it, and then 2 other spicy peppers, but they're all the blends, and they're all heat, but they've got flavor.
Heat and flavor.
And so far, habanero is as hot as we've gotten, but I think you might keep your eyes out on it. I got a lot of people saying that they want something
A little hotter, right?
something that'll hurt you, and I said, okay. So we're working on it.
Last question for you regarding French Drift Inn and your products and stuff. Now, you was telling me also you guys have a local farm too, right? Do you guys still work the farm with it, Charlie?
We do a little. We don't do as much as we used to because the big farm gets flooded so much it's just hard to do anything with now with the way the roads have changed. We do a little bit in our high tunnel. We try to get as much Kentucky product as we can.
Okay.
Our blueberries, a lot of them come from down in western Kentucky. We go down there try a couple times a year and buy a bunch of them. Anything we can get in Kentucky, like chocolate. Well, we do a chocolate cherry, which has got cherries. The thing about Kentucky, though, is there's not a lot of big fruit producers that you can buy, and we use a lot of fruit at a time. All of our apples right now come from Kentucky. Right now, we're getting 90% of our apples from a little place over in Cumberland called the Apple Tree.
Apple Tree, yeah.
Okay, you've been by there.
You had that Cumberland, that Lynch area.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just right there before you get to the park down there. Yep. And real nice guy. We met him when we first started doing apple butter. Matter of fact, apple butter is one of our
Big sale.
first. Yeah, it is. We do a lot of apple butter. We just we did a bunch of apple butter from Bourbon Barrel Foods this weekend. That was a fun day. Apple butter is a lot of work. We'll do a lot at a time. But we get those apples from them. So we, like I say, try to get as much local stuff as we can and keep as much the local flavor. Like our apple butter is a little different than most because I took my grandmother's apple stack cake recipe.
Okay.
And I took the spices out of that cake and the cinnamon out of the apple butter and put them together. So it should taste like my grandma's stack cake in a jar.
I tell you what, it's a big hit.
Yeah, we do a little, and it's different. Like I say, it's not. Sometimes you do too much cinnamon. To me, you get a kind of, I want to call it a muddy flavor.
Overpowering.
Taste. Yeah.
What you talking about earlier.
And so we've done that, and we really like that. And we got a bourbon peach cobbler. It's got a little bit of brown sugar in it. That may be our best seller right now.
Well, Charlie, I want to now go top broadcastings and jams and jellies. Now let's shift into another thing that keeps you busy for about 2 or 3 months of the year, Santa Claus. So kind of like the whole theme. I think of Charlie Pinson. I think of community service. Again, broadcasting, insurance. Providing things locally, something good, maybe a little healthier jams, jellies. Another community service thing for Charlie Pinson is Santa Claus here. So talk a little bit about how this started and what you do, Charlie.
I've probably done it for 40 years.
Really?
The first time I ever did it, Joyce, was in the women's club.
Okay.
Well, actually, it wasn't even. It was before the women's club. It was different. But it was a women's club, so to speak.
Okay.
And I was way too young to be playing Santa Claus. I was probably maybe 30s. And they asked me to play Santa Claus for that, and I did it. And we had fun. It was a lot of fun. And that went on for years. I didn't do anything. And then my sister was a nurse, and she asked me to come up and try to do it at nursing home she was working at one time.
Okay.
But it really got started when my friends had roasted cafe over here on the corner.
Yeah, the coffee shop, right?
Yeah, and they had the coffee shop. And Michelle and Jamie asked me, said, if we buy the suit, would you play Santa Claus? I said, oh yeah, I'll try it. And then, so I started doing Santa Claus for them. And I did that for a couple, 2 or 3 years, long as they were there. And then when they decided to move on to something else and sold the business, the new person, we didn't, just never did come up to do it with them. And they said, well, you keep the suit, shoot, it's yours anyway. And then all of a sudden, next thing I know, I'm doing, 40 or 50 Santa Claus things a year. I work in the city. I do the city Santa Claus over in the park. I do that almost every weekend between, I think 2 weeks after Thanksgiving up till Christmas Eve.
I know it keeps you busy. I know
Yeah.
University of Pikeville, you've done a lot of
I do some stuff at the University of Pikeville. I do some of their dinners up there, and I do some appearances up there as well. Believe it or not, kids of all ages love Santa Claus.
Oh, yeah.
Grandmas love, some people say they don't, but a lot of them do. You'd be surprised. For me, I do a couple, I do several, I get paid for some of them, and I don't get paid for others. I mean, one of the big ones I do, and I do every year, is the Ava Center.
Yeah, the local autism center in Pikeville.
Yes, the Ava Center, and that one's rewarding. That's one of those that, you don't get paid for, you don't want to get paid for,
Right.
because you're not doing it for that reason. Those kids, and what's been nice for me to do is I've been doing it for several years now. I can see how much those kids have advanced in that time period. And because you recognize them year after year, some of them, and they do a really good job over there. I've actually done a couple commercials for them.
Really? I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah. As Mr. Claus.
Mr. Claus,
yeah.
yeah.
And
So it's really neat because, again, during that November, December time frame, and heck, Charlie, you and I have been broadcasting ball games. You'll come in, I'll see you in your Santa suit.
Yeah.
You'll broadcast the ball game because you have a Santa Claus event after the ball games that we broadcast.
I've done a couple football games, 2 basketball games, yeah.
But it's just really neat to see
Yeah.
because the community service aspect of it. Yeah, I mean, as far as the pay doesn't match the amount of hours that you put into it, Charlie. But it is nice to have a little something to put back, whether it be just to help clean the suit or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, the amount of pictures people will take, though, Charlie, it is nice when they come in. Kids can kind of get into the spirit and they see Santa Claus.
Well, we set up a Christmas tree here, and we offer free pictures with Santa here in the store. I've done for some other stores here in town. I've done a couple other stores here in town. I do tourism, the city tour, the county tourism.
Okay, yeah.
And the city tourism obviously is over in the park. I do that for the city a lot. I've done events over at the arena as well. A couple local businesses I've been able to do that. There's always a few that stand out. I have gone from 7 days old to 100 years old
For Santa Claus.
as Santa Claus. I had
awesome.
had one of my friends' baby was born. They said, "You gonna be Santa Claus at the park tonight?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, she's coming out of the hospital today. We want to get her picture. Said no, we're not going to do that. You will come to my store about an hour before that, and you have all the time you want. Take all the pictures you want with her inside where it's warm and cool, warm and dry. I didn't want to take the child.
Just worry about the baby.
Yeah, worried about baby. Wasn't worried about me. I mean, I've been out there and it's been pretty cold. I was doing an event. This is my last Santa Claus story, but I was doing an event at the arena, and I was sneaking out to come get some lunch. I went over to the restaurant to get something to lunch, and I was walking down the street, and this gentleman walked up and said, "Would you mind coming over and just kind of standing and looking in the window?" My grandson said he's nonverbal, autistic, and not able, not mobile either. And I said, "Well, if you don't mind, I'll do better than that. Can I get in the car and just sit with him and talk to him?" And those are the smiles that you don't forget.
Charlie, again, the theme of being a community servant, man, when I think of Charlie Pinson, that's what I think of. And also, besides being a community servant, you're you're not worried about doing different things, from broadcasting to open up your insurance business to Friends Shift In and Jams and Jellies and statewide Santa Claus. Man, you're here to serve. You're here to serve others. That's for sure, man.
I appreciate it, Gary.
Hey, I mean, you're awesome, man. As far as again, you think of Charlie Pinson, man. You talk about anybody in town, they're going to a smile's going to come to the face, and everybody has a Charlie Pinson story too.
Well, I'm sure there are some stories out there.
Well, Charlie, man, I appreciate your time, though.
Gary?
This has been awesome. Just to have the time we got to catch up even before we start recording.
Yeah.
It's always fun to talk with you as well too. So, folks, we appreciate you guys tuning in as well. And for Charlie Pinson, my name is Gary Justice signing off. And please remember, it's a great day to be you.